Hey everybody! So this week we're going to be looking at new Tangles. Some of them did come out recently, some of them are older and they just showed up as new Tangles under Tangle Pattern, tanglepatterns.com, under their criteria. The first one is called Sea Knots, and it is a form of a Celtic knot. And you start with upside down teardrops that meet right side up teardrops that go to upside down teardrops, and then right side up teardrops. And then you just connect them, and lo and behold, they look like seas. So this one looks tricky, but it's not that bad. And you can do a lot of things with this. The basic version is very basic. There's nothing inside. It's just the knots connecting. A lot of the versions I've seen have wings on them, and I don't know why that is, if that's just popular or if there's meaning behind it, but I have seen a lot of those. But you can fill it in with different patterns or color it or leave it the way it is. I mean, it's really cool to look at either way. The next pattern is called switching because you're switching off the direction and curve of these squiggles. Apparently this kind of squiggle is called an Archimedean scribble. Who knew? Or swirl. And I just drew a different kind of swirl that you could also use. It kind of reminds me of yin and yang. But they're both really pretty, and they would make nice borders for cards or bullet journal entry. And they're pretty simple once you get the hang of it. I clearly messed up on the top one, but it still looks nice. This next pattern kind of blew my mind, and not in a good way. It took me a while and several tries to figure out what the pattern actually was, and I looked through the step-by-step that the original artist provided, and I tried to follow some other tutorials, and it shouldn't have been this hard as it was, so it'll probably be fine for you. But I definitely struggled with this one. There's just something about it that just blew my mind completely. So you connect valley to valley, and then in the next section you connect peak to peak, and then valley to valley and peak to peak. And you can just leave it that way, or you can put different patterns inside like I did. You can do alternating patterns. They could all be different patterns, just whatever look you're going for. But there's a lot of potential with this. But again, the actual pattern is to just leave it blank. So you can do that and it'll still look really nice. alternative way to draw it is to draw it vertically or sideways, I guess. And it kind of looks like stairs. And then you put the patterns in that way and gives it more of a 3D effect or just a different kind of effect. So you do have that option to draw it that way as well. This pattern is very similar to V's, but the nice thing about it is that you just put lines connecting the peaks and the valleys through all of the zigzags. You don't have to alternate them, and so that makes it a little easier to follow. And the main thing is that you're going to darken all of the peaks and the lines that go through. I guess really you're also darkening the valleys, but it's just to give the appearance that the white parts, the little arrow shaped areas, stand out more. They look like they're like dragon scales, and the black is the skin, so they pop up a little more. Would be the best way to describe it. So you can do that, or you can put in patterns like I did. It just depends on what you want. But again, like with V's, the original version is just blank. Ignore that rejected version there. They did show a version where you could do squiggles and then connect the squiggles, but it didn't work for me. This pattern I really like. It's called Shark's Reef, and you just draw these little quarter note looking patterns, and then you'll connect them, and it ends up looking super fancy, or at least it ends up looking really concise, and then you have all the folded bits, so it's very satisfying to draw, and I think it's satisfying to look at. So definitely look what you can do with Shark's Reef. I added in extra details, and I saw several versions where people put all kinds of patterns inside of the different folds of Shark's Reef, and you may not be able to see the potential in it, but if you look at other examples, you're like, wow, like there's so much that you can do to really make it pop. Flish is a pretty interesting repeating pattern, and you can leave it empty, or you can fill the background with all different things, or you can make the flying fish thus Flish, different colors. I also saw, I think it was the original artist that created Flish, that sometimes she didn't make them fish-like, so she didn't put the eyes and she didn't put the fins. She just kept the fish body and then did different things with that. Kind of looks like corn on the cob, but it was really cool. So you have that option as well. I did end up adding my own little flair to each one just to give you ideas, but I think it's really relaxing to draw, especially if you keep the big squares. If you do a lot of small squares, then I don't know, it may not be as relaxing, but in this form it was very relaxing to draw. Ta-da! Look what you can create within 15 minutes. Not only that, but just the process of doing this is very relaxing. And if you enjoy things like this, we have a self-care series going on. So definitely check out those videos and different activities. And then I also gave an example of how you can utilize all these different patterns to create one picture. So I hope that you guys are inspired. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.